Hey there. I want to talk today about using your goals to prove your self-worth and capabilities and why you should stop doing that. So, how many times have you thought about why you're doing something, or somebody asks you why you're doing something, and you say, to prove to myself that I can do it? I know this is something that I used to say. I've heard it from my clients. It's very common. And I want to talk a little bit about maybe why this isn't such a good reason. Now, some of you may be saying, well, this works for me. If it does, you can keep using it. But I want to talk about some of the problems I have with this. So, like I said, it sounds like such a good reason to do something. So, why do I think it's problematic? It stems from a place of insecurity. If you already believed in your self worth or your capabilities, you wouldn't need to prove anything, right? So it comes from a lack of belief in your self worth, maybe thinking you're not enough, or you don't know how to do something, or you're not capable of doing that thing. Really look at that when you're like, oh, I need to prove this thing, right? It's looking for external validation and approval as a means to validate your self worth, right? We're looking for that outside thing to come inside and validate our feelings. It can create a never ending cycle of needing to prove yourself. Reaching one goal just leads to the next, leaving you on a hamster wheel of chasing goals, right? You just keep looking for your next fix. Even if you reach the goal, it becomes a temporary fix for deeper insecurities. Your failure to reach the goal becomes wrapped up in your abilities and self worth. It's what makes so many people afraid of setting goals, right? I've talked to people all the time who avoid goals. Why? Because they're afraid that if they fail, they're going to think awful thoughts about themselves, right? So that's what the problem is. We're like, I have to prove my self worth. I have to prove I'm enough, right? And so we're like, oh, I failed at all these goals before in the past. And I had it tied up in the things I thought about myself. And so now that seems really scary. Okay. They have outsourced their sense of self-worth to circumstances that may be beyond their control. Okay. Right. We need to take it from once I get this goal, once I reach this thing, then I'll feel validated. And now we want to take it and say, I feel validated. I have enough self-worth, right? And this is on me, regardless of what I'm capable of, what I do, all those kinds of things. So, what if there's nothing to prove, right? What if you just go around and you're like, I have nothing to prove? This is something that's helped me a lot in my life. And I think a lot of this is wrapped up in our idea of like productivity in like Western culture is like super important. And I really want to challenge this a little bit. You have nothing to prove. You're already 100% worthy. You're already enough. You are already capable. Regardless if you failed in the past at reaching your goals, or if you have a goal right now that you may not reach, it doesn't matter. The two don't equal one another. Okay. They're completely separate. And I really want to talk about this. This is why when we say we need to prove to ourselves, we're like intertwining those things, and we really need to pull them apart and start saying, I'm enough. I'm worthy, right? I'm capable. And I also have this goal. Okay. Whether I reached it or not, it doesn't mean one thing about the other. Okay. So then you may be asking, why set a goal at all? Right? But you set goals to grow, learn, maybe because you have a desire, like you just want to, maybe to add direction to your life, or just for fun. Okay. We are so used to wrapping up so much into our goals that we shy away from ever setting them. Goals are not the end all be all. They don't make you a more worthy person. They don't even mean you'll ever reach them. You can totally set goals that are impossible, that others say you can't do, right? And it's okay. If that's just giving you direction and guidance, it's totally fine. If it sounds like fun, it's totally fine, right? One of the things they talk a lot about in goal setting is setting SMART goals. And one of them is being realistic. I'm all for realistic goals, and I'm all for extraordinary goals. I'm all for whatever goal you want to set for yourself. It's okay. So they don't have to be attainable goals. It's totally okay. If we attach our self-worth and our capabilities, then setting those impossible goals or those unattainable goals don't mean anything about us. And that's what becomes really fun. We just have this thing that we're aiming towards whether or not we get it or not. It doesn't mean we're not working towards it. We're working our butt off towards it because we have, like I said, maybe it's something we want to learn. Maybe it just sounds fun. Maybe it's a desire that we have, right? But it doesn't have to be tied up in our capabilities and self-worth. So what if you just let goals be goals and you be you, right? And we separate the two. Here's what that would look like. So say I have a goal to make $10,000 in 3 months. I come up with a plan, right? Simple. Now, what about me in this equation? I will do my best to follow and adjust my plan as necessary. Guys, listen to that. Adjust my plan as necessary. Just because we set a plan at the beginning of a goal doesn't mean that it's going to stay that plan. Things come up, things happen. We have to be willing to adapt and adjust during that plan. If I don't reach my goal, it doesn't mean something is wrong with me. It means something came up in my life, or my plan wasn't fleshed out enough because I had never done this before, or I didn't have the structure and systems in place to make it happen. That's all it means. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So many times we set a goal and we just have never done that thing before. And so we don't know the obstacles that are going to come up. We don't know if a family member is going to get sick. We don't know if we're going to get sick. There's so many variables in there. We just don't know everything, right? So, or we don't know, we think we're going to have so much time on the weekends. And then we realize, oh, I don't really have that much time to work on my business because I have this full-time job and I come home and I'm tired, right? And so we don't have those structures and those systems, maybe boundaries put in place. And so it doesn't mean anything about us. It means that we're learning all the way through. It could be a million other things. We just don't know what we don't know, right? So it doesn't mean I'll never be able to do it. It doesn't mean I'm not enough, right? None of those things. I want to keep reiterating this in your brain, right? So when those things come up, right, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have these thoughts. You guys, this is really important as well. If I'm thinking, oh, I'm just never going to think a negative thought about myself by the time when I reach this goal, that's not going to happen. I know for me personally, I'm going to set a goal. And if I don't reach it, I'm going to have a lot of negative thoughts about myself. But it's also for me to come back, calm my nervous system, right? Do some deep breathing, some meditation, some visualizations, those kinds of things, and get back into who I want to be. And right, I'm just training my brain, especially in the beginning, you guys. My brain's a little bit better at this now because I've had a lot of this exercise. So it kind of can go that way. But it's taken me years to get this way. And my brain still wants to be negative. It is what it wants to do. So I have to be patient with myself and loving, right? But I just know that it never means that much. So how does this look? So maybe I don't reach my goal and my thought might be like, oh, I can't believe I'm such a failure. And it's like, oh, there's that thought, right? And I'm like, it doesn't mean get rid of it. It means calm my nervous system. Like I said, meditation, do those kinds of things, and then redirect to where I want to be thinking about, right? I know I might be thinking, yeah, this really sucks. I have to validate myself a little bit. Yeah, it sucks not reaching your goals. It feels really bad, right? You have all these negative thoughts. Of course you do. And then I redirect, right? Then I'm like, okay, but I know that it's not about me. I know that maybe it was some systems. There's things came up. Now I can do this again. So it does mean, when I don't reach that goal, it does mean that I've learned some things along the way. So I just have to evaluate, right? So I just look back and I'm like, what are the things that I've learned? I've learned that I'm tired after work. I've learned that it's hard for me to get up in the morning and work on this. I've learned that maybe this isn't a priority for me and it's not that important. And that's okay too, right? So now I can maybe try setting the exact same goal if I want to, and I'll have a better idea of how to show up or how to go about it. Even now I have things set in place to make it more achievable, right? Maybe I have those systems and structures set up. Maybe I learned how to set boundaries around my family and my space, right? Or maybe I'll learn that this goal was way too big and I needed to set a smaller goal that is more in line with my lifestyle. And like I said, if I only have a couple hours, maybe $10,000 in 3 months is just too big. It's just not going to happen because I don't have that time or the systems and structures set in place, right? And maybe it's too big and it's making my nervous system freak out and I'm scared all the time and I'm avoiding it and I'm not doing any of the work because I'm so scared, right? Maybe I need to calm down and set up really small goals and work my way there. Like I said, for some, that really big goal can be super motivating, and for others, it can be really stifling. So you need to learn from those and say, oh, right, like just because it worked for so and so doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Maybe I need to set a goal of $1,000 in 3 months. Maybe that's more doable for me, right? Or even smaller. It's okay. It doesn't matter. All of us have different backgrounds, and so goal setting goes both ways. Okay. Here's the other part, you guys. If I do reach my goal, it doesn't mean that I'm superior. It doesn't mean I'm a great person. It doesn't mean that I can conquer the world. It may feel like that, but it doesn't mean that. It means I learned some stuff along the way, and now I know how to get that goal. Okay, that's all it means. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. So, reaching goals doesn't prove anything about you. Nothing. It doesn't prove. It proves that maybe you are learning and growing, or that you like to have fun. It can maybe mean those things, but it doesn't prove anything. Doesn't mean you're enough. Doesn't mean that you're even more worthy of love and affection. Okay? So, I like to keep my reasons for setting and achieving goals closer to the goal so I don't get in the weeds. So, if my goal is to make $10,000 in 3 months, my reason why doesn't need to be altruistic, like to achieve financial freedom or build a stronger relationships. I like to keep it more down to earth. Like making $10,000 sounds like a lot of fun, and I want to use that money to go on a vacation. Now, see how much more light that is? Like it's not so heavy, right? Because a lot of times people like find your why, and it has to be really deep. And sometimes those things can put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right? So I like to keep at my goal. Like if my goal was to make 10,000 in 3 months, my reason why doesn't need to be great and grand. I like to keep it more down to earth. Okay. I can take the world off my shoulders. Some may say it isn't enough to keep you motivated, but I don't think pressure is the best way to motivate. In fact, I think it's a really good way to freak out our nervous system and never get things done. Okay. Right? Because some people like the big and some don't. And we all have different nervous systems. We all have different bodies, and that's perfectly fine. But the pressure can get to us. And so I like I said, to keep it nice and light, keep it easy breezy, fun, right? Just going out and doing things instead of like, oh, I need to retire my husband. And then I like, oh my gosh, so much pressure, so much stress, right? And for some, they're like, I need to make money right now so I can pay my bills. That kind of pressure on yourself can be very stressful and can very much shut you down from doing anything at all. And it's too much pressure for a new business. I'll tell you that. I've talked about this in the past. It is okay if you have to have a job and rely on that. New businesses require capital. To just go in and think that we're going to not need any new resources to make a business work, I don't know where people are coming up with this idea, but it takes time, it takes resources. There's so many things. So just realize, like, if you're trying to make your little business earn a lot of money right off the bat, you're going to have so much pressure. You're not going to enjoy it. And I can almost guarantee that your business is going to fail because you're not, it feels awful. And so you'll end up going back to work, which is fine. I'm not against that. That's what I'm saying. If you need to take that stress off, but don't blame it on your business, blame it on your brain, and not in a bad way. Just realizing like, oh, I just need to maybe work a part-time job, or maybe you need to work a full-time job, depending on your living situation, right? What is it that you need to do to take the pressure off of this new business and off of you and off of your goals and making it mean all those things? Make it light and easy, okay? That is how we will get into business and keep going. As soon as we put all this pressure and stress on ourselves, it's a surefire way to like quit. So hopefully this helps. Don't beat yourself up with it. Don't use any of these things that I say to make yourself feel worse. Okay. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. Ashley said this is wrong. None of that. That won't help you at all either. Just realize, like, be curious about it. Like, oh, I noticed this is something I do, right? Don't use this against yourself, right? Okay. And I could be wrong. Totally fine. If you're like, I want to keep this, go for it. Do what works for you. Okay. If you want to learn more, there are links in the show notes and you can contact me. There's, like I said, links that I do one-on-one coaching. If you want one-on-one, it's it's more personal, right? Or I also do small group coaching, and I just started the course, The Confident Entrepreneur. You can look in that. There's links, like I said. It's not open right this moment, and you'll know when it is. And get on my email list, and I'll let you guys know when those open and those things. But anyways, hopefully this helps, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.